Following last week's extreme heat, California has announced that they will become the first state to introduce a ranking system for heat waves so people can easily understand how hot it's going to get. Which, isn't that just temperature? Did they just invent the thermometer? I guess I could see how this will be useful. It'll be like hot, extremely hot, dangerously hot, and then Idris Elba. And if it's Idris Elba, stay indoors. Stay indoors and check on your grandmother. In economic news, on Tuesday, the government reported that despite raising interest rates, inflation is still incredibly high. And in response, the stock market dropped 1,300 points, the worst drop since 2020. And can I just say, the stock market is a little bitch. No, I mean, every single one of us, we're supposed to be realizing inflation up, inflation down, unemployment, we just have to do it, we roll with it. But the slightest bad news, and the stock market's like, oh, I'm crashing. This is my worst day in 2 years. I don't think I can ever come back from this. And then every time, the next day, it'll be like, so I might have reacted a little harshly yesterday. I might have overreacted, and I feel like today's gonna be my best day ever. So much drama. In science news, NASA is testing a new planetary defense system by launching a space probe directly into an asteroid to see if it can knock it off its course. Yeah, and I guess if that doesn't work, I'm assuming NASA's gonna go with plan B, which is talking to the asteroid about Bitcoin until it naturally veers away. It's just gonna drift away from Earth. But let's move on to the big news of the day, and it is still about Queen Elizabeth II, Queen of the Andals and the First Men, Khaleesi of the great grass sea and Wales, mother of corgis and maker of chains. After 96 years of living her best life, the Queen's passing has obviously made headlines all over the globe. So let's catch up on all those headlines in our latest installment of the Royal Rumble. Today, Queen Elizabeth was laid in state at Westminster. And no surprise, the British went all out for it. Because the British love doing shit all dignified. Well, they do. Have you seen the changing of the guard? That's a 45-minute ceremony just to clock out. So when the Queen herself dies, best believe the pomp was going to be everywhere. I'm talking streets filled with giant British flags. I'm talking soldiers with their fanciest hats. I'm talking a casket decked out with the royal crown on top of it. Which means technically for a while that casket was the ruler of England. Yeah, I read that on Wikipedia. And officials expect that more than 700,000 mourners will come to see the Queen lying in state, with people waiting up to 30 hours in a line stretching 5 miles long. It's basically like trying to vote in Georgia. That's how dedicated you have to be to see the Queen. But my favorite ritual in this whole thing is that, and this is completely true, the royal beekeeper has to inform the Queen's bees that the Queen had died. That is a real thing that they have to do. And look, they don't have any footage of it, but I feel like I can imagine that it didn't go well. Hello, everyone. Hello. I'm afraid I have some difficult news. The Queen is dead. Yeah, no, not your Queen. Not your Queen. The Queen, not your Queen. Calm down, everyone, calm down. Everything is going to be fine. Everything is going to be fine, okay? We have a new leader, and Charles will now be the king. So, I'm covered in bees! So yeah, a lot of people are mourning. But it turns out, while the royal family has their official rituals, the people have their own way of mourning their beloved Queen. And Buckingham Palace has politely asked them to cut that shit out.
We've also heard that authorities are asking the public to stop leaving certain gifts outside Buckingham Palace. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so they're specifically asking people not to bring any more toy bears. So this all started during the Queen's Platinum Jubilee celebrations. The Queen participated in a video skit alongside an animated version of Paddington Bear. That was a real hit here, a sensation. And so in honor of that, people have been bringing toy bears and marmalade sandwiches, which were mentioned in that skit, to the grounds of Buckingham Palace. There have been so many bears brought that the Royal Park Service is asking people not to bring any more bears and to instead bring organic tributes such as unwrapped flowers.
Okay, hold up. This woman ruled the world's largest empire. And that's what people remember her for? People are like, oh, the lady who had tea with Paddington, yeah! Are you kidding me? She was the longest reigning queen in world history. She drove an ambulance in World War II. She knighted legends. And she had Princess Diana killed. And you remember her from a sketch? Show some respect! Paddington Bears. By the way, I'm not sure leaving a trail of teddy bears outside the palace is a good idea. I mean, that's already how Prince Andrew finds his girlfriends. But it's not just marmalade and bears. People are leaving all sorts of things. They're leaving flowers, they're leaving pictures. I'll tell you what, this is a great opportunity to get rid of anything that you don't want and just disguise it as a gift. Just be like, oh, our glorious queen, I honor you with this ottoman that has a wobbly leg. It is from the great Swedish kingdom of IKEA. But while some people and bees are mourning Her Majesty's passing, many other people are having a slightly different reaction.
Not everything was scripted today. One person protesting Prince Andrew was quickly removed from the crowd.
A day earlier, it was signage, not shouting, that police in Edinburgh had issued. This woman's sign was in protest at imperialism inflicted on the global south, she says, and now has been charged with breach of the peace.
Another man, Simon Hill, well, he was arrested and de-arrested in Oxford at a proclamation ceremony for the King after he shouted out who elected him.
I love that. I feel like everyone in the UK is amazing. It's like people heckling, you're a sick old man. So I'm like, who elected him? That's a great line. Who made you king? All right, your mom, sorry about that, yeah. But yeah, the police in Britain have arrested people for disrupting the royal ceremonies, basically, but with their opinions, which I was like, guys, the crown has gotten soft. Someone's just holding a sign. You realize back in the day, a crowd that didn't like you, their opinion would be that your body should be separated from your head. Now they're just holding up a sign. You can just turn the other way. Yeah, you still got a neck. Use it. Like, you're going to arrest a lady in Scotland for holding a sign? I've seen Braveheart. When the Scottish want to protest the British crown, you'll know. You will know. And this really makes you appreciate how much freedom of speech people have here in America. Yeah, you can do whatever you want here. You can say, F the president. You can give a congressman the middle finger. You can try to murder the vice president. It's all free speech, baby. It's all free speech. And the backlash to the British monarchy hasn't just been coming from the United Kingdom itself. Because in many parts of the world, especially Africa, people have a very different relationship with the Queen.
Across the African continent, there have been people who are saying, I will not mourn for Queen Elizabeth. They herded more than 1 million people into concentration camps where they were tortured and dehumanized, which is why you see a statement like this from the South African opposition party, the Economic Freedom Fighters, that said, we do not mourn the death of Elizabeth, because to us, her death is a reminder of a very tragic period in this country and Africa's history. During her 70-year reign as queen, she never once acknowledged the atrocities that her family inflicted on native people that Britain invaded across the world. If there is really life and justice after death, may Elizabeth and her ancestors get what they deserve.
May Elizabeth and her ancestors get what they deserve. You know what I love about that line is that you can't really get angry, because if you do, then it means that you acknowledge what she deserves is bad. May she get what she did. How dare you say that? Well, what does she deserve? I don't know. And I know some of these reactions seem extreme, but when you consider what the British Empire did, these reactions are actually pretty reasonable. Right? You can't expect the oppressed to mourn the oppressor. Never going to happen. You know, it would be like giving a eulogy for the guy who stole your hubcaps. I didn't know Maurice well, but he was definitely a go-getter. By the way, has anyone seen my hubcaps? And I know some people would say, but look, Trevor, the Queen wasn't really in charge. She's just a figurehead. You can't blame her for the atrocities that the British Empire committed. Yeah, fair enough. But you also understand, in her entire reign, she never repented. She never once made amends, right? There wasn't even one, like, Notes app apology on her Twitter. Nothing. I mean, her crown still has that big-ass diamond that they took from South Africa. Right? It still has the Cullinan diamond. It is the ultimate conflict diamond. The least you could do is give it back. To who? I don't know, but like, you could try. You know? Find a South African who hosts a late-night TV show. It could be any one of them, Then we'll be on the path to forgiveness. All right, that's it for the headlines. But before we go to a quick break, let's check in on the stock market with our finance expert, Michael Costa, everybody. Michael, it seems like chaos, man. What the hell is happening in the markets?
Look, the market is down, but Trevor, I am crushing it. I mean, I crush it so hard, NASA is shooting a rocket into me to keep me from crushing it even harder than I already am.
What?
Yeah, by the way, that's nuts that NASA's doing that. Shooting a rocket into an asteroid, right? You know what NASA stands for, okay? No asteroid, sucker. Hey, NASA, you give us 25 years, we'll take care of Earth on our own, okay? Oh, by the way, I got a hot tip for you, okay? And I got a hot tip for you, okay? So behind me here, these are the 3 major stock indexes, and we're gonna get to that. But first, that story about in California, how the new labels for temperature, Trevor?
Yeah.
Look, we can do new labeling. We can limit carbon emissions. We can go fully electric. But you know what the source of that warming is? No one wants to talk about this, okay? The sun. That's right. Hey, sun, what's your problem? You know? You only work half the day. You're so sensitive we can't even look directly at you. Everyone has to revolve around you. And, son, you discriminate against white people. It's true. The whiter you are, yeah, thank you. The whiter you are, the more the sun hates you. But I guess when you're a star, they let you do it.
Costa, what do you, just stop talking about the sun, right? Just get to the thing.
You know, meanwhile, the moon is just so chill. You know? Photographs well, lets you walk on it, controls the tide so I get gnarly waves so I can rip double-barrel A-frames. Think about it. We made love under the moonlight. Romantic. We made love under the sunlight. I get arrested for public fornication, okay? This guy, look. Don't worry, I got de-arrested later. But when I get to the chart? You want to get to the chart? Okay, all right,
Let's get to the chart.
Look, Americans lost billions in value yesterday. That's the negative, okay? Now here's the positive. We had billions. That's really good. That's a sign of a wealthy country. Trevor, if South Africa had a bad day, what do they lose? 40, 50 bucks? You know, I mean, look.
More than that.
Look at this drop-off. Look at this drop-off right here. That's the S&P, that's the NASDAQ, that's the Dow. Bang, all at once. By the way, S&P and Dow, don't be afraid to do your own thing, okay? Just once I want the NASDAQ to go down and the S&P and Dow to go up. You don't always have to follow the NASDAQ. If the NASDAQ jumped off a cliff, would you? Because you did. So remember, the good news is that in the stock market, when someone loses money, somebody makes money. And here's my hot tip, all right? Find the person that made the money and steal their money, okay? Trevor, back to you.
That's not a hot tip. That's a crime. Michael Costa, everybody.